All right, welcome to the Talk Tickers briefing. Today, we're diving deep into InterDigital's Q3 2025 earnings call, and let me tell you, there is a lot to unpack here.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the headline numbers from Q3, then we'll peek under the hood at their licensing engine. From there, we'll look at how they're building for the future with AI and 6G, try to make sense of the market's weird reaction, and then of course we'll give you our take on the next call. Finally, we'll wrap up with the key takeaways.
Okay, let's get right into it. The Q3 snapshot. And honestly, the best way to describe this quarter is just confirmation. Confirmation that their strategy is working and working well.
I mean, just look at this. This was the number that really turned heads. Non-GAAP earnings per share came in at $2.55. The street was looking for about $1.79. That is a massive 76-cent beat. That's not just squeaking by, that's knocking it out of the park.
And that incredible bottom line was really driven by some serious top-line growth. Revenue shot up 28% compared to last year, hitting nearly $165 million. This just shows you the demand for their tech is as strong as ever.
Now, for a company like InterDigital, this is the metric that gets me excited. Annualized recurring revenue, or ARR, jumped almost 50% to a record $588 million. This is huge because it tells you their business model is not just growing, it's getting more stable and predictable. That's a beautiful thing to see.
And here's where you see the real power of their business model. Adjusted EBITDA grew by a whopping 62%. It just shows you how much leverage they have. As that revenue comes in, a huge chunk of it drops straight to the bottom line. We're talking serious margin expansion.
So those are the amazing results. But how did they actually do it? Well, that brings us to Section 2. Let's look inside the licensing engine. Because, let me tell you, their core business is absolutely firing on all cylinders right now.
The quarter was just packed with one win after another. The big one, of course, was finally completing that landmark arbitration with Samsung. That's a multi-year billion-dollar-plus deal locked in. On top of that, they signed a brand new license with smartphone maker Honor, renewed with Sharp, and even expanded into the IoT space with a new deal for EV charging. This is just a clinic in execution.
And this is what all that hard work looks like. InterDigital now has about 85% of the entire smartphone market under license. That includes 8 of the top 10 biggest players in the world. They are getting incredibly close to their goal of hitting $500 million in ARR from just the smartphone business alone.
But this earnings call wasn't just about celebrating the present. It was really about showing how they're future-proofing the business. So, let's move on to Section 3, building the future with AI and 6G. The big move they announced was buying a startup called Deep Render. So what's the big deal? Well, these guys are all about AI-native video compression. Basically, think of it like this. Instead of just tweaking the current tech we use for video streaming, they're rebuilding it from the ground up using artificial intelligence. The goal is to make it dramatically more efficient. It's a really smart bet on where media is heading.
And don't just take my word for it. The CEO, Len Chen, put it perfectly on the call. He said this acquisition accelerates our research and strengthens our position for when the next generation of video standards starts to get decided. So you see, this isn't some small tech buy. It's a major strategic play to be at the forefront of the next evolution of video.
And this really maps out their whole long-term game plan. Step 1 was to dominate the world of 5G licensing. Check, they've pretty much done that. Now, Step 2 is expanding into this new world of AI-native video. And they're doing all this while also working on Step 3, positioning themselves to be a leader when 6G standards are developed. It's just a really clear, logical path forward. Okay, so monster quarter, great results, and a super clear vision for the future. The stock should have just taken off like a rocket, right? Well, this is where things get a little weird. Let's look at the mixed signals in Section 4, guidance versus the market reaction.
First off, the guidance they gave was actually really strong. For the fourth quarter, they're projecting revenue somewhere between $144 and $148 million. And here's the kicker. That guidance is based only on contracts they already have signed. That means any new deals they close this quarter would be pure upside on top of these numbers.
But the market had a fascinating reaction. On the day of the earnings report, the stock jumped over 7%. Makes sense. But then the very next day, it gave all of that back and then some, dropping almost 9%. It's like the market loved the results at first, but then maybe got a little spooked thinking about the long-term nature of this AI pivot. It was a real head-scratcher.
So all of this brings us to our final take. It's time for Section 5, the next call.
Let's put all this data together and come to a verdict.
So, the big question is, after these incredible results, these really smart strategic investments, and all this confusing volatility in the stock price, what is the actual call on InterDigital?
Our call is outperform. To us, the market's hesitation just feels like a major disconnect from the fundamental strength we're seeing. Their core licensing business is an absolute cash-generating machine, and that's giving them all the firepower they need to invest in these huge long-term growth areas like AI and 6G.
And looking forward, there are a bunch of catalysts that could really move the stock. We're going to be watching for updates on how they integrate Deep Render, any new licensing deals, especially with those last couple of unlicensed smartphone makers, and of course, any progress they make on their legal proceedings against companies like Disney and Transsion.
All right, let's wrap this all up and get to the bottom line. Look, if you remember just one thing from this briefing, let it be this. InterDigital's Q3 was more than just a good quarter. It was confirmation that they have a powerful licensing engine that is now bankrolling a very smart, very strategic pivot to completely future-proof their business with AI and 6G technology.
And as always, please remember this is not financial advice.